During her 14-year tenure at Netflix, Patty McCord helped define the modern workplace. There, she wrote a now famous 124-page missive called Netflix Culture, Freedom and Responsibility that's been viewed 15 million times. But as we all know, Silicon Valley hasn't always been the picture-perfect image of maturity. Patty McCord, author of Powerful, Building a Culture of Freedom and Responsibility, just published this week, joins us now from New York. Patty, thank you so much for joining us. So, what was it about Netflix specifically that you think enabled them to pull this off and actually pull it off well?
Well, we worked on it for a long time. The culture deck that you referred to, I actually didn't write. A number of us over the years wrote it. It took about 10 years to do it. And I think what enabled us to do it was we paid attention to it. So we didn't just assume that we would have a great culture that would stick around and be the same forever. We realized that we could innovate and evolve the culture of the company as long as at the same time as we were innovating and evolving the product itself.
Now, in some cases, having the right rules when it comes to Netflix means having no rules, like unlimited vacation, which is the policy there. Do you think it's more about then hiring the right people or creating the right structure?
It's absolutely both. So if you create a structure that says you need people who have who like a lot of responsibility, they like to have a lot of judgment in their work, they want to make their own decisions, then you have to hire those people that do like to do that. And it's not everybody. And I wrote my book not as a memoir about what we did at Netflix. I wrote my book because I think some of the principles that we apply to everybody at work today, and that we can all think about work differently going forward.
Looking at Silicon Valley specifically, we've seen many examples where this industry has tolerated brilliant jerks, or so they're called. Looking at former Uber CEO Travis Kalanick, when you look at that situation, obviously he helped build a $70 billion company, but what went wrong?
I think people get enamored in their own success. And, you know, a lot of these companies received lots of money, and it was a growth at all costs scenario. And so when you grow fast and you're rewarded for doing that, then you assume that you're doing it right. So these things happen when things are going extraordinarily well. And, you know, we had a bit of a different circumstance at Netflix because at the time that we started coming up, we didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have a lot of freedom to be able to go outside of the boundaries because we had a lot of work to do. So sometimes I think it happens because you're kind of overcompensated. You have so many people doing so many things that you stop paying attention to good discipline and good efficiency.
Now, part of the problem is that this idea of the young, brash founder or engineer or product guy is a stereotype that people buy into, whether it's investors who fund them or companies that hire them. You know, how problematic is this idea that that is what's ideal?
I think it's problematic across a lot of industries. I consult now to small startups and large corporations, and I talk to people around the world, and I see it over and over again. Some of it's human nature. You know, when you're successful, you think, I want to surround myself with other successful people, and I want them to be smart, and I want them to be articulate, and I want them to be fast on their feet. I want them to be, well, just like me. Right? So like hires like, hires like, hires like. But what's really interesting, I got interviewed earlier in the week, and the woman was asking me about, you know, how interesting it is that so many of these men who are fired from sexual harassment charges are being replaced by women. We were talking about Hoda in specific. And I said, isn't it funny, you know, I hear in the Silicon Valley all the time that the reason we can't have women in management positions is a pipeline issue, right? There's not enough qualified women to take the job. And in each of these cases, the women are already in the room. So, you know, she was sitting right next to him, Matt Lauer, at his desk. So I don't think we really have to look that far to find really qualified, capable women in our workforce.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about another Silicon Valley issue, which is that, you know, a lot of companies here, from Facebook to Google, provide these amazing perks, you know, meals around the clock, transportation services, gym services. You can bring your pet to work. You can get a haircut at work. You know, Netflix, on the other hand, as I understand it, was fairly light on these kind of perks and encourage people to go home when you're done with your work. Do you see anything problematic about this sort of campus mentality?
Well, I got to tell you, it's pretty sweet here at Bloomberg in New York.
We do have some fancy
You do
snacks.
have some fancy stuff here.
I don't get to bring my dog to work, but other than that.
I think anything can go overboard. I worked in the Silicon Valley for over 30 years, and I've seen the pendulum swing more than once. And so, the problem for me with too many perks and taking care of people from everything from their laundry to their transportation, you have to figure out what things make the company efficient and effective and what things sort of treat people like children. And so, I understand the trade-offs people make. I understand the transportation issue in the Bay Area. Transportation is really difficult, and we don't have the infrastructure that you have here in New York, for example, to get people around. But, some of it just seems silly to me, and it might be just because I've seen the rich times and I've seen the poor times, and so I want to link what we do and how we treat people to our successes as businesses and to the delight that we give our customers and our clients. And if you focus on that, then you rethink some of that stuff. And that correlation that people assume that if I make employees extraordinarily happy, they'll be extraordinarily successful, I'm not sure I really buy that.